Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the inaugural episode of Brownsville at Large, a podcast where we dive into the people's ideas and momentum shaping the city of Brownsville. I'm your host, Commissioner Tino Villarreal, and I couldn't think of a better way to kick off this series than with our very first guest, Mayor John Cowen. John previously served as Brownsville's at-large city commissioner from 2019 to 2023. He's a proud graduate of Notre Dame, a dedicated local business owner, a community advocate, and above all, a husband to Robin Cowen and father of 3 incredible children. Mayor Cowen, thank you for joining on the show.
Commissioner, congratulations. I know this has been your brainchild. You've been thinking about this for a while, and I'm really proud that you're executing. And man, what a setup.
Our friend over there, the Puro 956 friend with the Visit Brownsville t-shirt. We've got some space stuff going on here, some PUB, GBIC, the Chamber, Fire Police. I've got my challenge coins that I've been collecting for years.
You've definitely represented a little bit of everything of our city here and its uniqueness and just brings a lot of the character of our city to this podcast. So congrats.
Thank you. That's the goal. I mean, I think then later people can tell me, hey, Tino, how come you don't have this on there? And we're going to welcome it. We have a place here. We also don't want to get too many things going on. We want to keep the conversation here. But creating a podcast was kind of my way to figure out how to communicate with the public. I know that you do coffee with the mayor, and those have been very successful. So I didn't want to copy coffee with a commissioner or do something like that. So I'm like, look, you know what? We do a podcast. Maybe we can have some people tune in, listen to important things on this podcast. And people are asking me, like, what are you going to do? Who are you going to invite? What are you going to say? And I just wanted the viewers to know that this is an informational podcast. This is for us to pass on city information to inform our constituents, the citizens, and anyone else watching all over the world, kind of the issues that are going on right now. I know that our latest issue that we have, and the reason that I invited you to be the first one, not only because you're mayor, but we just got done with your second annual State of the City address, Edge of the Future. It took place at the Texas Southmost College Performing Arts Center. We had a lot of people, kind of sellout crowd. I know that people were fighting for tickets. How do you feel? How do you feel with that second one?
Well, I think, these events for me are always very energizing. And really, we get to reflect on where we've been, what we're doing, and the projects that are coming, that we're all working on together, right? And I think, like this podcast, the State of the City is a real way to inform the community on what's happening. Because I think, like you said, there are people that get their media or get their information from different angles and different mediums. And it's our job as leaders to be able to reach as many people as we can, right? And so the State of the City, we're proud that it was live streamed. We had our own coverage as well, lots of media that came out of that as well. And so it's a great tool to have to really summarize and explain to the average citizen what's happening in Brownsville.
I thought it was great. I mean, look, I'm going to touch on like some of your speech highlights so we could hear a little bit more from you. I know that we're going to cover a couple things: population, economic growth, and recognition, our historical investments and infrastructure, economic development and jobs, downtown and housing revitalization, health, wellness, and environment, connectivity and smart city technology, education and youth engagement, airport and tourism, zoo, culture, and hotels. It seems like a huge list because Brownsville's been busy and we're excited. So let's start with the first one: population, economic growth, and recognition. Brownsville has nearly 200,000 residents now, largest city in the Rio Grande Valley, named #1 metro in the United States for investment and an emerging economic hotspot. The Brownsville-Harlingen Metro is the fastest growing in Texas for job growth and top 5 city in the U.S. that people want to move to. Talk to me a little bit more about that, Mayor.
Well, I think it's important to highlight these important recognitions, right? It validates what we're feeling, what we're seeing on the ground, and it provides very objective measurement, right, of our economy and where we're going, right? And I think for us, it's all about creating opportunities. And for me, breaking the cycle of poverty that we've had here for generations for a lot of our families, right? And I think you're starting to see all these things come into play real time, right? Economic growth, uh, equity being created for our families that are here that had never had a chance to be, to invest in our economy, right? I think showcasing our workforce, right, with these large capital investments at the port and at SpaceX, just really being able to hire 70% local. It validates that we can handle these big economic projects, right? And I think you're starting to see that snowball effect, right, where increasing our wages will help generate an increase in commercial and retail and everything that follows, right?
Yeah, a whole trickle down effect the whole way.
You saw that with the announcement on Saturday with Barnes and Noble coming to the mall. That was my teaser at the State of the City, that we couldn't announce who was coming to the mall, but Barnes and Noble was the store that people talked about for, I think, decades. Like, why don't we have a major bookstore in our community? Now, I do want to talk about Bull, because they were the ones that really validated that Brownsville had the base readership, right? That people can cut that there was a demand for a bookstore, right? And they've been doing great. And I think this will complement what they're doing, and just I think they'll be able to feed off each other. And it's a great thing for Brownsville and for people that are here in town.
Yeah, I mean, economic hotspot, that's always a plus. When you look at how's our economy doing, it's on the up. How's our job creation? We're leading the fastest growing in Texas. I mean, those are just phenomenal things, Mayor. I'm going to move on to another topic, historic investments and infrastructure. We approved the largest ever capital improvement plan, $300 million over the next 5 years, $13 million, maybe a little plus on Old Highway 77, $28.3 million in road maintenance, $5 million for hybrid buses and solar bus shelters, $70 million public safety complex to house police, fire, EMS, cybersecurity, and more. Engineering and public works saved 40% in cost with 30 plus in-house street projects in 2024. $10 million investment into synchronizing traffic lights citywide. When we're in our position, everybody always talks about infrastructure. What are you doing to fix my streets? What are you doing to fix my roads? What are you doing for public safety, public transportation? I mean, that is the meat of our budget, Mayor. How do you feel as far as how we're moving in, catching up to our city's growth and really pumping some serious dollars into infrastructure?
I think it's extremely important. Obviously, now that we have economic growth, we're able to have the resources that it's going to take to sustain that and to catch up, the deferred maintenance in our city, right? Before I was mayor, I was a city commissioner. I was elected in 2019. And before that, we didn't have a capital improvement plan. There was no plan to invest in our infrastructure. It was just as needed, or as they had money or resources, they could tackle certain projects. Now we actually have a 5-year plan to identify the areas that we're going to be investing in, and do it in a smart and strategic way. I think that's really important. And that's a testament to the staff, the professionalism of our staff, and our leadership of our commission, right? But like you said, we wanted to address all the areas that you highlighted: streets, drainage, public safety. Those are the 3 things that a great city needs. We need strong investments in all areas. But I am definitely proud of our commitment to our public safety complex that we've announced, which I think will provide the foundation for police and fire and emergency operations for the next 50 years.
Well, speaking of emergency operations, right? Odie and her team do a phenomenal job. And currently they're like in a small room at the public library, Brownsville Public Library, correct? Mm-hmm. What does this do for us moving forward to have their own state-of-the-art facility for emergency?
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows, that we're not a small city anymore, right? I think people, unfortunately, we didn't have the resources to provide Odie and her department with a facility and space to adequately do her job, right? And I think, obviously we live in an area that is prone to hurricanes at times, migrant influx. was a situation that really had to be well managed, and I think Odie was a shining star for the city during that difficult time, right? And but
We just gave her the city recognition. Well, I thought it was interesting to know that all the major cities across the country copied her plan.
right, yeah, she developed a very thoughtful and organized plan to lead from the top down, right? So that it's organized, it never that migrant influx never got to a point where it was out of control, or people didn't know what they were doing. We all worked together with the NGOs and with Customs and Border Patrol.
Some people don't even know. Some people don't even know how many immigrants would cross through here. Can you just, off the top of your head, I know you know around how many immigrants were crossing, just to give
Well,
people
I
a
think
ballpark figure.
when I got elected in May of 2023 as mayor, for the first 12 months, we had more than our population of our city come through our ports of entry, right? And I think
Wow.
that's just, it's a challenge.
And obviously, some people said, "Oh yeah, I feel," but nobody really felt it. I mean, as far as from some disruptive kind of way of life, nobody really felt it. Obviously, you saw a couple of people here and
Right.
there that you're like, okay, but over 200,000 people in 1 year. That's a huge number for us to still go downtown, have a great time, move around our city and not really feel that kind of influx. I mean, I just think they're due for their complex and due for all of that great stuff. What do synchronized lights mean for Brownsville citywide? Let's talk to us, Mayor, about just the synchronization of Boca Chica and what that kind of did for us.
Right. So Brownsville has, I believe, over almost 250 streetlights, and over 90% of them are not synchronized, which means, we do have a traffic department that tries to pair up the lights. Whenever there's a power outage or there's something that happens where the system gets reset, they have to go manually in there and readjust. And it's an issue because it's not efficient. It means it takes longer to get to work. It means more emissions, more wear and tear on our roads because people are stopping at our intersections more. But by investing in recently in the main corridors, Boca Chica, South Padre Island Highway, Alton Glore, you're starting to see the positive impact on making this investment. Right, I think going from end to end on Boca Chica used to take over 25 minutes. If now it takes 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And that you multiply that savings by all those tens of thousands of people that travel every day on that road. It's an increase in economic development, quality of life. It checks all the boxes on what we need to be doing. That's an immediate ROI for our community.
I think that's fantastic. I'm one of those people that when they redid Boca Chica and they put the median, I was like, I can't turn here to go to Dunkin' Donuts. Like it's going to completely alter and change my life. But when I find out that I could make it from the highway to the airport in half the time, we'll figure out different ways to get to Dunkin', right? It has a nice little trade-off. I'm going to move on to economic development and jobs. $1.9 million has been invested by GBIC in job training. The development of the 90-acre Brownsville Tech Industrial Park, 15 new companies, $11 million. Major incoming project, over $100 million plus investment from SpaceX Tier 1 supplier that is bringing in more than 90 jobs, and 3 additional GBIC projects in the pipeline of close to 300 million, 500 new jobs, and our port of Brownsville. 12 billion in total economic activity, supporting 66,000 jobs across Texas, 10,000 plus here locally. Let's start with just the development with GBIC. Talk to us about GBIC.
Sure. I think, one of my campaign promises was making sure we had enough industrial space in Brownsville, right? When I got elected, that was an issue. We were trying to recruit companies to come here, and there's nowhere to go because we're out of space. Everything's full, which is a great problem to have, but it takes time to develop and activate new spaces. And so what GBIC's been charged to do is activate their, they have 729 acres on 511 and Prentice Line, right? And so they are focused on the first phase, which is about 90 acres, and they're going to have their groundbreaking later this month. right? And so I'm really happy and proud that they've gotten to this point. That will help immediately land projects. And I think we have. I know, speaking of Gilbert, he has $3.5 billion of projects just for Brownsville.
Wow.
Right now, some are short, mid, and long-term plans, right? But those are all real projects. Now we cannot land those unless we have the space needed to activate those. And if we don't have it, someone else is going to get them. So it's incumbent upon us to make sure we're ready for this growth that's coming. And I think you've already highlighted, the SpaceX supplier that is coming to Brownsville. That's hundreds of millions of dollars in capital investment that will generate, income for the city for better services, right? And so it's just diversifying our economy is a huge priority for us, right? We don't want to be reliant just on one sector, because if you have a hiccup, it's really hard to recover from. But we want to have a broad-based economy.
And we have seen some of these companies that come in that bring jobs. Sure, they bring a couple of people from outside of the region, but they're employing a lot of people here from the region, from Brownsville.
Absolutely.
Right. I think that's important. You're looking at 3 additional GBIC products in the pipeline of 500 plus jobs. I mean, that's a big deal. And then obviously our port, 12 billion total economic activity. Anything new there in the port that we don't know about? I mean, how is it going? What do you know about the LNG? How are we doing are they in time? I know that there was a little hiccup there, but
no, I think everything, is full steam ahead for next decade. They are, I think, over a year into their construction phase. I think there are about 2,500 construction jobs that have been created, and they will be up to 6,000 by the end of the year.
Wow.
Right. And they're already working on phase 2 of that project, which is phase 1 was $18.4 billion. Phase 2 is another $12 billion. Right. So it's a combined project of $30 billion, which is, I'm sure, one of the largest projects ever done in the United States.
Jeez. Well, we're excited about that. Moving towards downtown. We're going to break this down because it's a lot of activity downtown. So let's talk first about the $42 million to revitalize El Jardín Hotel, $29.1 million for 44 affordable units. The Samano building, $12 million for 39 studio units, grocery store and services. I know you're very familiar with those. You sat on those boards and you've been very active. Talk to us about El Jardín and Samano.
So this morning I was at the El Jardín getting a tour of the project, and it's incredible to see the transformation. Right. When I was on the Housing Authority board, I was there for 7 years, and the vision was, hey, no one wanted to tackle El Jardín restoration because it was too expensive for a private developer. Right. The numbers didn't make any sense. It would probably just been better just to tear it down and build something new. Right. But we saw the value in making sure that asset that we have for our downtown was restored to the historical standards that it used to have, right? And I think there was a lot of value to that. And so there are programs that the Housing Authority took advantage of to get funding to be able to bring affordable housing into downtown, but also restore the building, right? So it's a perfect combination. And I think it's over $29 million project.
Yeah.
And they already have a few units that are almost ready. So you have the El Jardín Hotel, and then you have the ballroom, the old ballroom that was behind it. So that ballroom is almost done. That has 2 units in there, and it's amazing. I've
only
walking
seen
in there.
I've only seen it from the outside, and it looks like one of those very traditional hotels like downtown Chicago that they've been there forever, but it looks like it was just built a couple of years ago, right? It looks great.
And then the Samano building, another historic building that we have, and I'm proud of that development by Come Dream Come Build. And that's, I think, one of the first supportive housing developments south of, I think, Corpus, that will help our homeless population get on their feet and have all the services in one location needed to turn around their lives and get back to being
a little grocery store downstairs. It's going to be like urban living.
Right.
Little bodega downstairs.
Absolutely.
You can go buy your groceries, get some services done. Maybe we're starting to see a little bit more of that pop up downtown. We just interrupted people's lives with the ARPA funded downtown wastewater improvements of $14.5 million. You know, talk to us the importance of that, because I know that everybody had to have little detours and they're like, what are we doing here?
Well, obviously our downtown's one of the older downtowns in probably the state of Texas. We have a lot of old infrastructure. There are actually clay lines downtown in some places, right? And so it's important to, as we are trying to renovate and bring downtown back to life, we need to have the infrastructure needed to do that. And I think that $14.5 million investment is going to pay a lot of dividends for the city.
Yeah, absolutely. A new 2 million gallon water tank for future growth was part of that. But we're also seeing all these new subdivisions, 36 new in 2024, 10 already to date in 2025. I know you were down at the grand opening of the Madeira project. You know, can Brownsville catch up to its growth from a housing standpoint? From just whether they be multi-family or single units. I mean, how important is the growth of all of these new subdivisions, and how do you feel that are we growing at the appropriate rate?
Well, I think it's housing is a challenge not just for Brownsville, for most cities in the country right now. But I think we're trying to create a mix of options for our residents that are either here or people moving here, right? So we're looking at we are kicking off a housing plan, which will help provide that framework. But you can see the level of sophistication that we're dealing with now when it comes to development, like the Madeira plan, which is a master plan community, right? The last time we had a master plan community was, Bill Hudson's plan over 30 years ago, right? And that created 1,000 acres of development, and it was hugely successful, right? And so not only do we have Madeira, we have another development called Estrella that is, supposedly going to break ground later this year as well. So, and that's another 1,000 acres. So you have these generational projects happening kind of all at once, right? And so it's an amazing time, and I think we all need to push our departments to make sure that they're executing, that they're being responsive to, in a proactive way, to developers, to make sure that obviously if they're successful, we're successful at the city.
Yeah. So 30 years ago, when Mr. Hudson was over there talking about building the trails and a little kind of like Riverwalk feel and some parks, and so these developments are installing kind of very similar things, right? All
Absolutely.
the amenities that come with being now not just a couple of homes here and there, but they're going to have all these cool amenities to go.
They're essentially economic centers in themselves, right? It's not just housing. There's a commercial component. There's sometimes there's a hotel and other
Parks and Rec,
and there's a huge trail system, and I think it elevates the quality of life for people in Brownsville.
Absolutely. Construction permits, 339 million. Okay. 155 million residential, 184 million commercial and industrial. I know that we've always, I mean, both of us, I'm sure we've sat in many meetings with constituents. We're trying to get a permit in Brownsville. And I do think that the permitting process, at least we have a process. It's getting better, but that's a lot of permits, $339 million. So that just tells us that we're growing in the right way.
Well, absolutely. And I think, as the city grows, city departments need to grow as well. And I think the permitting department is a great example of that's they help generate growth for us, right? And so making sure we invest in technology and training and having the best people in that department, I think, is incumbent upon us, right? We just rolled out a Cella, which is a digital permitting system, which prior to that it was all done manually and paper based, and I think that was a big step forward for the city. And I think developers and builders are having to get used to this new system. But I think I've had a lot of positive comments about it. It's transparent. You can go into it and see your status of your permit. You know who has it or what the comments are. But again,
there's a turnaround time.
There's a turnaround time.
Supposedly,
right.
They're supposed to get a response at least from the program.
Right. So the goal is, our goal is to get, everything done. If everyone's working together, within a couple weeks, you should be able to get a permit, right? Because it has to not only go through the city, all the city departments, you have to go through PUB as well, right? So but it's a transparent process. But if someone doesn't know how to use the software, there can be barriers. So there's, the city is doing a lot of outreach, making sure that people know how to interact with the software. It's just that there's that feedback process with the community that we need to make sure that's very strong.
Yeah, no, I think, a lot of positives on that regard as well. A lot of work to be done always, but a lot of positives. This year, turning the page, health, wellness, and our environment. 11.5% decrease in diabetes, saving us about $240 million. 6% drop in obesity, saving us about $65 million. Combined savings of close to $300 million a year in just health and productivity costs. Is that because people are getting more active? There's more awareness. I know that we're launching the new cannery public market. There's the new recreational master plan. But what do you attribute all of these like positive things? Is it more people are out in the trails? Like more people are becoming healthy lifestyles? Is it, how is this happening?
I think it's all of the above. I think, and I really credit Commissioner Cowen to building that framework to get those results right as a community. Because I think Brownsville and the Rio Grande Valley in general has always been known as some of the least healthy areas in the country, and when it comes to all those statistics, right? But it's an amazing accomplishment to be reversing that trend in an environment where that trend's not going down in the country, right? This is an issue starting to be an issue everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. But we're achieving results, which I think we're helping set that model for how other communities are going to deal with this problem, right? And it's making sure we have the infrastructure needed to be healthy, right? Having trails and bike lanes and healthy eating options, having these farmers markets events that we have. And I think that builds that culture. You see your neighbor, you see your friend building good habits, you want to be involved too, right? And I think the RGV challenge that we have this year is an amazing thing.
We're almost towards the
I talk to people
that,
right? Hey, they joined that thing 10 years ago and they're still going to the gym because they got invited to go to this challenge, right? And so those are the things that I'm very proud to see happening in our community.
And sometimes people don't know, like Mayor, I went a couple of weeks ago with Commissioner Cowen to Austin, and we had a bike tour of Austin. We went through all of their trail system. We rode some e-bikes. And until you put yourself kind of out there riding the bike, learning more about what the trails do, how they connect the city in a completely different way, until you get involved, you really don't know. You hear about it, you see the bike lanes, and you go, hey, they're maybe taking up space or a lane where we could have more cars. And I hear it, and when I drive around Brownsville, I'm very now. I now look at trails and go, hey, we should get a bike lane here, because I did like a 3-hour bike tour. I thought I was going to be, so I didn't even go prepared for it. I went in boots and jeans, but with the e-bike, it was amazing. I used to live in Austin. I got to see Austin from a completely different perspective. And again, I want to reiterate, I thank Commissioner Cowen, for inviting me and for all the things that we are doing here in Brownsville when it comes to health and wellness. We've also seen, again, new topic, all these orange, miles and miles of fiber. And people go, what is this tubing that's happening, and why are they in my neighborhood? Omni Lit and fiber, BTX fiber, has 200 miles of fiber, 1,300 plus connected, 1,800 plus waiting. Brownsville is now the only city after Las Vegas to offer private 5G services. We're the least connected city, Mayor, is that right? And now I think we're trying to get to one of the most connected cities. That's just phenomenal. How does this play out for our citizens, our residents, as far as rates? I know that there's opportunities for some of our families to get really good rates there.
No, absolutely. I think, going back to when I was the commissioner, this project started under Mayor Mendez, and I think there was uh, a an urgent need to close this gap when it comes to fiber connectivity, right? When you're having uh, internet access be, it's not just, it's a necessity nowadays, right? A lot of times, either for people working from home or applying to jobs or learning from home. COVID really accentuated that, with in terms of people having to be to operate their lives at home, right? And I think by not having access to internet puts our community at a disadvantage. So I think uh, laying, I think it's 600 miles of fiber, right? That's the
Yeah.
total investment. It's about a $90 million project overall, 19.5 million of city funds. Um, I think it's one thing to have the plan, but it's another thing to execute, right? And I think it's great to see the city and Lit and Omni execute this plan, and I think they're doing a great job. My neighborhood got they put down the fiber a couple weeks ago. I don't have it yet, but I'm really excited. I think it provides a cheaper alternative and a better, higher speed download and upload speed than what's currently being provided.
Private 5G. I think people don't sometimes know what that means.
Well, I think with private 5G, that means basically like, like on your cell phone, you use AT&T or Verizon, they have have 5G signal. It's a cell signal, right? And so the city of Brownsville will have its own cell network based on this fiber network we have, right? We're going to be able to put cell antennas all over the city that we're going to be able to connect our parks to Wi-Fi, right? We're going to be able to connect our buses, our traffic lights, license plate readers for our PD. We're going to activate technology in a very cost-effective way that will elevate the level of services that we're providing to our community. So
I think
it's a great thing.
we currently, even Dean Porter Park, Linear Park, now have smart camera systems that are being deployed, and we have more and more in those public spaces. So, is this something that you think in the future we're going to be able to work with our business community to offer space in the P5G? I don't know.
I think it provides a lot of opportunities.
Especially
I think right now we probably don't even know what's coming in the future in terms of technology, but absolutely, I think there's going to be.
But I think it prepares us for, fighting against cybersecurity and everything else.
Absolutely.
For companies that want to come down here, or companies we already have, to maybe kind of offer that or figure that out.
Absolutely.
But that's great. Now to one of my favorite topics: education and youth engagement. So UTRGV is investing over $84 million downtown. The Longoria campus is $34 million. The Majestic Theater is $50 million. We have a new city UTRGV task force of the future that was formed. So looking at what that did, I know you championed that. I mean, that was a big deal. Talk to us about this new task force and how it was created, and why it was created, and why you fought so hard for this.
Well, and thank you, Commissioner. I think in speaking with students, businesses, faculty, and staff here in Brownsville, I think there is a real strong feeling that our community is being, there's not as much equality when it comes to the regional university, right? That our kids are having to travel a lot to Edinburgh for classes. Investments in campuses are not as on a level playing field, and I think we wanted to bring this up in a real way to UT administration, not just here locally, but in Austin, right? And I think we were able to really advocate at a higher level, and I think I was very proud of our community to really step up and say, hey, we deserve a bigger seat at the table here, and I think
A fair share of the
fair
pie.
share,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think they are definitely listening. I don't know if they even realized the extent of what was happening.
Well, kind of COVID also derailed a lot of things,
Sure, sure.
and nothing went back to norm.
And
Right.
the easy thing for them is to invest in Edinburgh, because that's where a lot of the administration is. That's where the sports are. That's just a natural pull, right? And if there's no one advocating for Brownsville, then it's hard to enforce. Hey, making sure we're being treated fairly. And
so
I think that's all this is.
Yeah.
It's been a very friendly discussion, and I think everyone's willing to work together.
And so what does this task force do? Because it's created. I know you're part of it. I know that there's all these other moving components part of it. And what is it tasked to do?
Well, there's a sense of of urgency here. We want to make sure by the fall that there are more classes offered in Brownsville, right? So they're already making those adjustments, which you're going to see a real improvement there. But by July, this task force has to produce a report to the city and to the UT administration showing the path forward for for the task force. Like what are the recommendations, right?
Real recommendations, real changes, real deliverables
with dates of implementation. So I think it's not just a kind of a pie in the sky process. This is going to be tangible. We're going to have real results here
real measurables
to show the community that we've accomplished this for Brownsville.
Oh, that's cool. Congratulations on that. I know that's a big deal. I mean, I'm all into education, our youth, and our community deserves that, right? To have someone that fights for our kids. Also, one thing that we were able to do together that excites me so much is to create the One City Youth Advisory Board, right? Involve kids, and then we created the One City Scholarship Fund that was launched in 2024. Thank you for your help with that. I mean, that's a really big deal for me. I work with youth all the time, and to have them I call it leadership in action instead of just seminars that talk about leadership. We're putting them in leadership positions. They're super involved. One of my guests on this show in the future here is going to be one of those young men who sit on the youth advisory board. But and you've been playing both years at and help sponsor the One City Scholarship. How important is it, Mayor, to engage kids in what we're doing and teach them about how Brownsville's growing and what role we hope they plan to play in the future here?
No, I think it's one of the more important things that we've ever done at the commission level, right? And I think the youth they're our future, right? And then we need to be empowering them with opportunity to showcase their talent, but also to provide a voice and an outlet for them to advocate for themselves, right? And I think even though they're not voters yet, it sets them up to be informed decision makers, and that they can actually see themselves in a leadership role in the future. I think that's a really important thing, right? Mm-hmm. You provide them with that opportunity. I think you'll see that their outcomes improve because they've had this opportunity.
Well, I've had one of the young kids say, I never really thought of Brownsville being a future destination for me as far as once I go off to college. And I definitely want to, now I don't even know I want to leave. I will leave because I want to go study at the best possible, but I will come back.
And also I think, being an elected official, we always get approached by youth asking for assistance with certain things, financial assistance, right? Like, hey, I need help going to a tournament. I don't have the funds to do this. Now there's a platform that we can steer people to access funds that are distributed by their peers,
by their own peers,
and that's an amazing thing. Yeah. And I think that's a great model. And I think you'll see other cities do the same thing because we're doing it the right way.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Our airport and tourism. How about the fact that we're up 20%? We saw 321,000 passengers in 2024. That's a big deal. $35 million runway renovation is underway. And you were just on the flight. You were over in Monterrey at a conference, and you just took the new Aries airline to Monterrey under an hour, less than $100 each way, right? And so I mean, the airport is a huge part of our future. I believe that, and I believe it's like just green. First of all, how was the flight?
I thought it went great. I mean, I had never flown that airline before, but the plane's brand new. It was on time. Like you said, less than an hour. I mean, otherwise you would have to go, either to Houston or Dallas and connect, and it would take, 3 or 4 hours to get to your destination. This was a very seamless, easy thing to do. I would definitely do it again. And you're connected to one of the, Latin America's main hubs, right? Monterrey's 5 million people. There's so much to do there, and it's, and that's part of my, my vision as mayor is making sure that our bonds as cities between Monterey and the Monterey area and Brownsville are stronger, because there's so much interest in that community in Brownsville, right? And so making sure that connection is strong will just produce a lot of results for us. So I think having our airport as a hub, and to increase the amount of destinations, I mean, that just creates more connectivity for us and more economic growth.
Yeah, absolutely. You ran a lot. You talked about the zoo. You're like, I remember when you were running for office, the zoo was a big deal. And currently right now, the Gladys Porter Zoo Master Plan, it's doubling in size. There's going to be an African savanna. The zip line, I think, soon. It's it's under construction. I think we're less than a month or two away from actually riding the zip line. I'm sure you're going to be the first one on it. And there's a potential hotel/restaurant. But all that started with your ability to negotiate with our independent school district, $17 million purchase of Cummings, the CTE center, to support the zoo expansion. So, I think growing up, the zoo was probably like the top zoo, one of the top zoos in the country, and it remains a phenomenal zoo. But this expansion was so needed. You ran on it, you delivered it. What does that look like for us?
Well, thank you. I think our zoo is one of the, if not but one of the most important things in our community that separates us from other cities. It's just a jewel, right? It's 400,000 visitors a year come to our zoo. My family goes there at least once a week. It's just a great place to go and visit, right? But when I found out that the zoo is at risk of losing its accreditation due to the lack of space for their larger animals, right? I saw that as a call to action, right? And the zoo had always wanted to acquire Cummings. I mean, that's been an ask for probably 20 years, right? And they could never find a path forward to get that done. And I'm really proud of our commission and the board of directors, the board of trustees at the school district, to come together and show that we're working together, that we can actually find a win-win-win for everyone, right? And their CTE center is also very important to the city, right? And so we were able to leverage the 16 or 17 million that we provided. They will use that money to build a new CTE center, state-of-the-art
absolutely.
And that's going to be in the next 3 to 5 years. That's their goal, right? They want to get that done. And so right now, now's the time to have the plan to do the expansion. What does that mean? How do we want to see it play out? And I love that, the other day I was at eBridge, and the Pace high school, one of the senior classes, one of their projects was the vision for the expansion, right? And they presented to me and Dr. Birchfield and some other people. And it's amazing. They see like youth come up with the things that they want to see there, right? And they use the AI image generator to show like visually like what it could look
what
like.
It would look like. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I think it's a great time for Brownsville to be able to have that vision and and make it a much stronger destination and asset for our city.
Yeah, I think that's great. I tell people that I tell them, I don't know how possible this is, but I know that our elephants went to San Diego. I tell them, we're bringing the elephants back, but obviously we're years and years away from seeing what this looks like.
Anything's
But
possible.
but it gives us the option
Right.
Who knows? It gives us the amount of land to consider stuff like that. Anyone driving around town is going to see that there's 3 new hotels: the Town Place by Marriott, the Live Smart by Hilton, and those we can see. There's a couple of hotels popped up already, but then there's an Embassy Suites with 170 rooms, 1,200 square feet of event space, and that's popping up right there in that new area by the bowling alley and all of that stuff. People always complain to me, Mayor. They tell me, I'd go to Brownsville, but I can't find a hotel room. They're always booked, and I know that they're booked because of all these new companies that are coming in, and they book the rooms. 3 new hotels, and I think some more conversations, right? Like we're looking at a huge hotel expansion here in Brownsville.
Yeah, I think we have over 2,500 rooms in Brownsville, and I think, like you said, there are times when our rates are more than the island, which is amazing. That means that there's demand, and that demand will generate this future growth, and it is happening, right? So I think, again, it's a snowball effect, right? The more hotels we have, the more tourists that we get, the more economic development that's possible. And it's just, it kind of drives itself, and it's, having a brand like Embassy Suites come in, puts us almost on, it's on par now with McAllen, right? Mm-hmm. They've had that for a while, and it's great to see that. And they're going to have a rooftop viewing area for future SpaceX launches, which is great. To have that amenity to be able to showcase, and
any rooftop, whatever,
absolutely.
Is awesome. Yeah,
I totally agree.
That's really cool. Well, those are the key points. Is there anything else that you talked about in your State of the City, or anything that I did not touch on today that you want to talk about? If not, anybody that you want to thank? I know that you thanked at the State of the City your lovely family, your wife Robin, your kids that are so supportive. I mean, talk to me, Mayor. Anything else? Any thank yous you want to do? This is time.
No, of course. This job is it's a service job, right? So this is I dedicate a lot of my time to being mayor. Probably over 90% of my time. I mean, and that's a big sacrifice for the family, and so I think I definitely thank them for supporting me in this journey. And it's been such a blessing, right? I always tell people this is the best time to be mayor in the history of Brownsville. But we're able to showcase our people and our potential, right? We're helping achieve our potential, right, together. And I think that's just a really beautiful thing.
And I got to see your uncles.
Yes, yeah. No, it's great.
They were very proud.
Yes, no, I'm happy they were there at the State of the City, and they definitely are. They've always believed in Brownsville, right? And they've helped us get to where we are. A lot of them dedicated their lives to public service as well, and it's just, I think everyone is just very happy right now.
Well, I want to thank you, for being our mayor.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for the job and your leadership, but also I want to thank you for being my first guest. This has been like a year in the making. It's taken forever to get us here, but we're here. The studio, I think it looks cool. I think it's unique. And I don't know if I'm a good host. I don't know if the podcast thing is going to be a thing for me, but it's it put me at ease to know that my first guest would have a lot of things to talk about, easy to talk about. I kind of just lay them up here, and the show is really yours. But I want to thank you for being on our very first Brownsville at Large podcast. Folks, that wraps it up for us. That's Mayor John Cowen, our first guest at Brownsville at Large. Mayor, thank you, and thank you, Brownsville. We'll see you in the next show.
Brownsville at Large, voices that shine.